What the f happened in Super Bowl XXXII? The Packers came into the game as 11-point favorites, looking for a repeat championship after a dominant playoff run led by the three-time MVP and all-time government money allocator, Brett Favre. Surrounded by potent weapons like Antonio Freeman and Dorsey Levens, the Broncos came into the game looking to improve their franchise's 0-4 record in the big game, with 3 of those losses coming under the leadership of their veteran QB John Elway, who sought to get the monkey off his back by finally winning a ring with some help from superstars like Terrell Davis and Shannon Sharp.
Like the same age girls I like.
Okay, yeah. Okay, yeah. I'm getting old, but my eyesight's still young.
The Packers received the kickoff, and Levens took the first carry for only 1 before Favre got swarmed in the backfield on second, forced to throw the ball away for what probably should have been an intentional grounding call, but on 3rd and 9, Favre hit the back of his drop and tossed with touch over the middle for Freeman, who caught it for a clutch first down. Levens followed his fullback next and fought through a tackle all the way up to midfield for another first before they'd hand it to him again, and he'd make a jump cut through a gaping hole, fighting through a few more tackles for another 12 yards and another conversion. The Broncos managed to corral him for only 3 next, but on 2nd and long, Favre threw a perfectly placed high ball for Freeman on the slant, and the receiver went down just outside the red zone for another quick chain mover, and the very next play, Favre launched up a rainbow ball connecting with Freeman in the end zone, and Longwell punched in the extra point to go up 7-0 after an excellent first drive. Von Hebron got the Broncos past the 40 on a great kick return before the offense would start with a toss to TD, who lowered his shoulder and delivered some punishment for 4 yards. On 2nd, the back plowed up the middle for about 3 more, setting up 3rd and 2, where Elway dumped it down to him, and Davis managed to fall forward for the first down in Green Bay's territory. Elway scrambled to his right next before tossing one way over Davis's head incomplete. On 2nd, his pass was batted down at the line, and on 3rd, Elway's throw was broken up with some tight coverage, but a holding call on the other side of the play bailed Denver out of a must-punt situation, and TD took another handoff, jumping to the outside and finding the edge, getting loose into the secondary before jumping back inside near the sideline, and finally going down at the 15. His next run wasn't as successful as he was stopped up after only gaining 3, and on 2nd and 7, Elway took it himself, diving into a defender towards the end zone and taking a shot to his throwing shoulder. Hebron came in to relieve Davis, diving forward just shy of the goal line, and on 2nd down, Davis came back and finished the job, leaping over Griffith into the end zone to tie the game up, making it an eventful first quarter so far. The Pack decided to start their next drive with some trickery on a reverse to Robert Brooks, who followed a lead blocking Favre to pick up about 5 before stepping out of bounds. Favre felt the pressure from both ends next and just chucked up a Yola ball over the head of Brooks that sailed straight to Tyrone Braxton for a pick that would give Elway the ball at Green Bay's 45. Davis took a toss and instantly gashed the defense, spinning through 1 tackle and darting forward before getting grabbed from behind after a 15-yard gain. Elway dropped back next, hitting Unk shallow over the middle, and the tight end managed to turn up for about 9 before Davis would dive ahead on 2nd down to get them a new set of downs inside the 17. The fullback Griffith took the carry next, bouncing backwards after picking up only a few, and on 2nd down, a defender came across early as Davis took the handoff that wouldn't matter because of the penalty, setting up 3rd and 3, where Davis made another good cut, but was tripped up before he could get rolling and fell forward for about 4. On 1st and goal, Hebron managed to get them about halfway there before Davis would take another dive, but this time the defense filled the gap, and the back managed to only get about 1 with a second effort, and on 3rd and goal, Elway took it himself on a bootleg, understandably not wanting his fullback to drop the pass, and waltzed to the corner of the end zone untouched to give Denver the lead, and Elam would put them up 14-7 early in the 2nd quarter. Favre handed it to Levens on 1st down, but the back was swarmed by penetrating defenders for no gain. On 2nd, Favre quickly hit his tight end Chimura to get them half of what they needed, and on 3rd and 5, Steve Atwater smoked Favre like a brisket, and the QB lost the ball forward, and Neil Smith dove on it to recover it for the Broncos. Starting deep in Green Bay's territory again, Elway surveyed the field before airmailing it to his running back Hebron on the corner route. On 2nd, Hebron took a carry to the right but was stuffed for nothing, and on 3rd and long, Elway chucked up an underthrown ball for Rod Smith, who jumped but failed to haul it in near the end zone, and Elam would nail the long kick to put Denver up by 10, still early in the 2nd quarter. Favre handed off to Levens again, and the back plowed through defenders on a bruising 7-yard carry, setting up 2nd and 3, where he'd take it again, falling barely short of the first down, and on 3rd, they'd go back to the well 1 too many times, and Levens was buried for a loss, and Green Bay would be forced to punt it back to Elway for now. Elway made a quick toss to Sharp for a quick 6-yard gain. He'd go back to Unk again on a shallow in, but the sure-handed tackle left them on 3rd and 1, where Derek Lovell came in and punched it forward for just what they needed, but an illegal formation penalty neutralized the play, and on the ensuing 3rd and 6, Elway dropped it off to Hebron in the flat, but the back was cut down and snagged well short of the line to gain, and they'd be punting right back to Favre and the Packers. Pinned deep by a great punt, Favre's first throw to William Henderson was incomplete. On second, Levens was pulled down right at the line, and on 3rd and 10, Favre ripped the most beautiful CTE-inducing hospital ball I've ever seen for Chmura on a huge conversion to get them to the 25. Dorsey Levens took it again, cutting through a gaping hole and galloping forward for a huge gain to the 40, where they'd use him again, this time for 7 on the power run. On second, Favre tossed it high to Brooks in the flat, and he was swarmed quickly, but a very generous spot gave them the conversion they needed, and the drive would continue. Favre dropped back and ripped a bullet to Freeman next for 6, before pump faking and dumping it down to the fullback for a short gain, leaving them on 3rd and 2, where Favre tossed it high for Freeman, who went up and got it despite taking a big hit for the first down. Favre's next throw was sky high over Derek Mays, incomplete. On second, he faked it to Levens, tossing it out to Chmura, who steamrolled the defender in space, diving forward for another conversion at the 21. Favre cocked and fired another rocket for Robert Brooks over the middle, incomplete with a flag down, but after review, the tripping was incidental and it was picked up, leaving them at 2nd and 10, where Favre tossed quickly up the seam for Mickens, who was spun down after 2 blistering hits were laid on him for a gain of 6, and on 3rd and 4, Levens took the carry and barreled forward for just what they needed to get a first at the 10. Favre fired it behind the wide open Brooks on 1st down, incomplete, and a following false start backed them up past the 15, where Favre stuck it right on Brooks to get them halfway to the goal line, and on 3rd and 5, the QB lofted it up high over Braxton and to Chmura in the back corner of the end zone, and they'd score again, cutting down Denver's lead to only 3 as the Broncos would kneel down, bringing it to halftime. The Broncos received to start the second half. It started with a toss to Davis, where the back made several cuts, advancing upfield, but the back had the ball stripped away by Ray Crockett, and the Packers recovered it deep on Denver's side. On the first play, Levens was surrounded in the backfield, barely able to get back to the line of scrimmage. On second, Favre missed Brooks by a country mile and was lucky that Atwater dropped his pass incomplete, and on 3rd and 10, he dropped off a screen for Levens, and the back picked up some decent yardage but was short of the line to gain, leading to a long-well kick that would have been good, but a defender jumped off sides, giving the offense a fresh set of downs, where Levens took an outside handoff next, barely getting back to the line again before getting dropped. On second, Favre let go of a dangerous ball that was almost intercepted again, and before the 3rd down play, 2 false starts in a row backed them up to a whopping 3rd and 20, where they just handed to Levens on a draw, where the back weaved forward and dove, but it would just be to set up Longwell for a shorter kick to tie up the game again early into the 3rd quarter. Elway handed to TD to start the next drive. The back made sure to hold on to it this time as he fell forward for 6. On second, he was blasted after picking up 2 yards, making a cut, and on 3rd and 2, Elway bought some time running right, but ended up tossing a dangerous throw of his own that was tipped by the defender, fell to the receiver, but ultimately fell incomplete, and they'd punt it back to Favre and the Packers, giving them a chance to take the lead. Levens took an inside carry to kick things off, gaining 4. On second, they went back to him on a misdirection handoff where he laid a blistering hit, gaining 2 more, and on 3rd down, Favre dropped back and threw way behind his receiver, signaling some miscommunication between the two, and they'd have to boot it right back to Elway and the Broncos. But another offsides penalty on Denver would give Favre another crack at it. Levens plowed forward for a few on 1st down. On second, Favre rolled out and whipped one out of bounds incomplete, and on 3rd and 6, he tossed to the perimeter, but too high for Brooks to haul it in, and they'd lose their second chance, going 3 and out for real this time, booting it back to the Broncos, seemingly pinning Denver deep with an initial good punt, but a penalty on the line forced them to do it again, and on the second try, Denver's return man made an invalid fair catch signal, leading them to ultimately get pinned inside their own 10 still. Elway slung a heater over the middle for McCaffrey, who got his shit blown smooth off as it fell incomplete. On 2nd down, Elway pinned the throw on Unk, running the slant. He fell forward to set up 3rd and 2, where TD got skinny through a gap, diving forward to keep it going with a 1st down. He took another carry, working his way forward for about 4 yards before he'd take it up the gut again, this time bouncing off a tackler, getting wrapped up after getting just what they needed for another 1st down. Elway faked to him next, surveying and ripping one down the seam to McCaffrey, who caught it in stride and got spun down deep in Green Bay territory. Davis found a gap again on 1st down, plowing through a defender, picking up 8 before Elway would roll out on play action again, finding Ed McCaffrey once again, and the receiver would be cut down in the red zone just shy of the 15, where Davis got a short gain of 3 trying to round the edge. On second, Davis got stuck at the line, only picking up 1, and on 3rd and 6, Elway hit the back of his drop, feeling the rush and stepping through the center of the line, taking it himself and trudging forward with white jerseys in front of him and deciding to lay it all on the line, diving headfirst into 3 defenders, getting spun around midair and picking up the 1st down and then some for his team in one of the most iconic Super Bowl moments of all time. Davis took a carry next, bullying his way forward to the goal line, and on 2nd down, they fed the back again, and he cut and pushed his way in for another score, giving the Broncos a 7-point lead again in the closing seconds of the 3rd quarter, 24-17. Freeman took the kickoff, getting ahead of steam before cutting to his left, but in trying trying to make a man miss, the receiver lost the ball trying to do too much, and Tim McKyer dove on it, and the Broncos' huge momentum swing would continue for now. But not for long, however, as Elway faked to Davis and ripped one for Rod Smith, but Eugene Robinson jumped the throw, picking it off in the end zone and returning it all the way to the 15-yard line before getting stuck by Sharp at the 15. Favre started by stepping into a heater for Freeman in stride on the dig, and the receiver picked up about 25 yards before going out of bounds past the 40, where Favre pump faked and lofted up a back shoulder ball for Brooks, who got a pretty weak interference call against Darian Gordon, moving them all the way into Denver's 36, where Favre found Brooks in the flat for a short gain on first down. On second, Favre launched another rocket to Freeman, who caught it before getting smoked by Atwater at the 14-yard line after another big play, before Favre would drop back again, heaving another heater for Freeman, who tumbled down into the end zone, putting his stamp on the masterful drive where Green Bay didn't run the ball a single time, and tied up the game again at 24-24 in the opening minutes of the fourth quarter. Starting from their 22, Elway tossed to Davis again, and the back dashed through a huge gap, but it was thanks to a hold that backed them up 10 yards, where Davis took a drop the gut, but only managed to pick up a few yards before going down. On second, Elway checked it down to him shallow over the middle, and he was almost instantly tackled, leaving them at 3rd and 13, where Elway just tossed up a YOLO ball underthrowing Willie Green and nearly throwing another pick to Darren Sharper, and they'd be forced to punt it away again. Starting near midfield, Favre laid one out in front of Levens out of the backfield, and the back got rolling down the sideline, lowering his shoulder into the defender to get them a quick first down, before Favre would load up and overcook one for Freeman, sitting wide open between zones on first down. And on 2nd and 10, Levens took an inside handoff, pushing up the middle for a few, and on 3rd and 8, Favre tried to lay one out in front of Brooks, but Atwater got a hand on it, knocking it to the ground, saving a huge play and forcing Green Bay to punt it away. Davis took a quick handoff towards the edge, but made a cut back in that bought him an extra 10 as he was pulled down after a quick first down gain before he'd showcase the agility again, weaving through the line for 4 yards. On second, Elway fired out to Carswell in the flat, and the tight end managed to fall forward to set up 3rd and 2, where Davis surged up the middle once again to get a first down. Davis read and cut back again several times on the next play, but only managed to pick up 3 before Elway'd wait for Sharp to get open, sticking it right on him, falling backwards for another first. Davis plowed up the gut again for another 3. On second, Elway tried to loft one up for Smith again, but once again, it was almost intercepted, and on 3rd and 7, with pressure bearing down on him, Elway just tossed it out of bounds, and Rowan's punt would pin Green Bay at the 10. Favre dropped it off to the fullback in the flat on first down, and the big boy bulldozed the corner before picking up 7 and getting pulled down. On second, Favre pump faked before going deep down the sideline, but his throw was into double coverage and was nearly intercepted by Crockett, and a holding call on the line backed the pack up to 2nd and 12, where Favre quickly tossed it out to Freeman, who managed to set up 3rd and 6, where they shot themselves in the foot with another pre-snap penalty, and on 3rd and 11, Favre scrambled around to buy time and threw against the grain going left, but throwing right, and the ball bounced off the fingertips of Freeman, and the Broncos would get another shot at taking the lead deep into the fourth quarter. TD started off taking another toss, where he was almost instantly tackled, but shrugged it off and advanced for a few before 2 guys wrapped him up, but it turns out the first tackler got a piece of his face mask, and they'd move forward inside Green Bay's 35. He tossed it back to him, going the other way this time, as the back was met by a big boy out in space, only picking up 1, but on second, Elway faked it to him before dumping it off to the fullback Griffith, who was wide open and able to get loose down the sideline for a first and much more, going down inside the 10-yard line. Davis followed Griffith next to the perimeter, making a jump cut near the sideline back upfield and diving into the end zone for a would-be score, but a hold by Unk neutralized the huge play, and they'd literally try again with the exact same play call, with Davis following Griffith again, this time stepping out right at the goal line where he'd waltz through a wide open hole into the end zone, and with Elam's kick, Denver would go up 31-24 with only 1:45 left in the game, and it would all be up to the back-to-back-to-back MVP to tie this thing up and bring it to overtime. Starting from the 30, Favre dropped off a screen to Levens, who made a man miss and galloped all the way up to midfield before getting gang tackled right on the logo. The Packers tried another screen, but this time it was almost intercepted, but somehow Levens caught it for no gain. Favre held his eyes downfield next before checking it down to Levens in the flat, and the back got loose onto the Broncos' side before stepping out at the 35. Favre went right back to the running back in the flat, but he was tackled inbounds, only picking up 4, and on second down, Favre fired a laser over the middle for Freeman, but it was too hot to handle and it fell incomplete, and on 3rd and 6 with 36 seconds left, Favre fired high up the seam for Brooks, and the 2 defenders, Atwater and Hilliard, collided for one of the most brutal hits I've ever seen. I mean, just listen. After the play knocked out 2 key defensive backs, surely Favre would be able to make something happen on 4th and 6, right? Well, Denver just blitzed, bringing 6, and Favre quickly got rid of it, targeting his tight end over the middle, but John Mobley got in front, knocking it down, and Favre unbuckled his chin strap, stunned. The Broncos were elated on the sideline because now they just take a knee and let the clock run out, winning 31-24 over the heavily favored Packers, and John Elway would finally be able to hoist the elusive Lombardi trophy with only one question remaining. Would he retire? Hey guys, thanks so much for watching. Please subscribe to the channel and click the thumbs up on the video if you liked it. Also, I'd really appreciate if you guys could join my Patreon for early access to new videos, and I have exclusive game reactions that I can't post here on YouTube. Anyways guys, I'm going back in time and making a what the f happened video for every past Super Bowl, and I have a video on the Super Bowl that followed this one, so go and check it out. Peace!